Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good morning, everybody. Before we get into the consent calendar, I just wanted to observe it is obviously a very challenging time we're going through right now in our state and our world, particularly with this virus going around, and just really wanted to remind all of us the way we get through tough times is by supporting each other and being the best colleagues and friends and family members that we can be to one another. And obviously at the Energy Commission, we're taking all the precautions, and we have extra cleaning going on for door handles and that sort of thing, and monitoring information very closely and working closely with the Resources Agency and the Governor's Office on this. We will get through this, but it is impacting all of our work, and just wanted to ask everyone to really make every extra effort you can to support each other and be as prudent as we possibly can, and we'll be in touch if there's more specific guidance going forward. So with that, let's get into the agenda. Is there a motion for the consent calendar?
Move approval of consent.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Let's go to item 2, discussion of the Energy Commission progress. Joint agency report, charting a path to 100% clean electricity future.
Good morning, Chair Hochschild and Commissioners. As requested, this is a status update on the SB 100 Joint Agency Report. So last month, the Joint Agency team held our first workshop of the year on modeling inputs and assumptions for the analytical portion of the report. And thank you to Chair Hochschild, Commissioner McAllister, and Commissioner Douglas for your attendance. We had a strong turnout for the workshop. We had over 225 people on Webex and close to 100 in the room, including an overflow room. So we were really happy with the level of engagement. At the workshop, CEC staff and our consultant E3 outlined our analytical approach for the report, which includes using the pathways and resolve models to compare various scenarios to achieve the SB 100 target. Most of the scenarios that we're planning to model are based on what we're calling the RPS Plus proposed criteria for zero carbon resources, which includes technologies that are RPS eligible or are considered zero carbon under CARB's greenhouse gas accounting framework. To date, we've received considerable feedback in favor of this approach, and the interagency team is working to fine-tune this proposed criteria. We're also modeling a no combustion scenario in response to concerns around local air pollution. So some of the sensitivities that we're planning to explore include both demand-side assumptions around electrification, as well as supply-side assumptions such as in-state versus out-of-state resource availability. We're currently finalizing the list of scenarios, and we'll be completing the modeling work over the next few months. In addition to the analytical overview, the workshop included 2 stakeholder panels. The first was on reliability with the 5 California balancing authorities. And some of the key considerations raised during the panel were ensuring that our modeling supports a diverse resource portfolio, which is not necessarily the same as a least cost portfolio, a call for more dynamic transmission planning that includes forecasted resource retirements, concerns around stranded assets and cost recovery, and a recommendation to address the transition of the natural gas fleet and associated infrastructure, and a need for significant research and investments in storage and smart grid technologies. The second panel addressed additional perspectives for SB 100 and included speakers on the topics of equity, affordability, land use, resilience, and workforce transition. This was a lively discussion that highlighted tensions between many of the key facets that we're working to address in the report, including balancing grid hardening costs while maintaining an affordable electricity supply, allowing flexibility in resource eligibility while addressing community concerns such as air pollution, and the costs and benefits of distributed versus large centralized projects. The panel also discussed specific recommendations for future SB 100 modeling and reports, and these included adding land use and conservation screens to our modeling, which we are exploring in this report, moving to hourly greenhouse gas accounting, ensuring that we account for the downward pressure of electrification on rates, as well as cost savings from load flexibility, adding recommendations for workforce development partnerships and programs, and planning robust engagement with disadvantaged communities in the implementation of SB 100. So we really appreciate the input we received during the workshop and in written comments, which we are still reviewing in detail. I also want to mention that the CEC staff presented an update on SB 100 at the January meeting of the Disadvantaged Community Advisory Group, or DACAG. And the group voted to make SB 100 a priority item, meaning they will dedicate a subcommittee to work on the effort. So we really look forward to their continued engagement. As next steps, we are finalizing our scope of work with E3 and starting our modeling. We have heard interest from stakeholders in a webinar to present our final list of scenarios, so we're exploring holding one at the end of the month. And then we plan to hold a draft modeling results workshop in late spring, and then a draft report workshop in late summer. And that is it for my update. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Commissioner Monahan?
I'm wondering, is E3 doing all of the modeling, or are the agencies also participating in the modeling?
So we are working very collaboratively. So we've already had a number of meetings with E3, and we're kind of working together to fine tune the assumptions and the scenarios, but they'll be the ones actually executing the modeling work. I don't know, Mark, if you had anything to add. Okay.
Other comments, questions? Okay, thank
Thanks.
you, Darren. Let's move on to item 3, order instituting informational proceeding.
Oh, thanks. I'm Raquel Kravitz, covering for Heather Wright, who is out sick today. I'm the project manager for the 2020 Integrated Energy Policy Report Update, or the 2020 IPER Update for short. Staff is asking the Commission's approval of an order instituting informational proceeding to gather and assess information needed for the 2020 IPER Update. The Commission is required to prepare an IPER every 2 years that provides an overview of major energy trends and issues facing California, with an update in the intervening year. Commissioner Patty Monahan is the lead commissioner for this report this year. She issued the scoping order for the 2020 IPER update on February 24th, identifying the topics and general schedule for this proceeding. The 2020 IPER update will consist of 3 products: a report in transportation trends, challenges, and opportunities. The second one is the update to the demand forecast, and the third is the assessment of microgrids. Commissioner Patty Monahan will be the lead for the transportation analysis and the lead for the Commission for the overall 2020 IPER update, while Commissioner Andrew McAllister will lead the demand forecast, and Chair David Hochschild will lead the assessment of microgrids. Adoption of this order will allow the Commission to collect information that is needed to complete the 2020 IPER update, but is not identified in the Commission's data collection regulations. Thank you for consideration for this order.
Yeah, I'm doing the microgrids in collaboration with the vice chair. So, yeah, that should be.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Monahan? Any public comments on that? Thank you. Commissioner Monahan?
Yeah, so this will be my first IPER process, so I'm excited to embark on it. Also excited that we're doing a special focus on transportation, which helps me. The entire IPER, I got to say, is really an impressive document when we do the every other year one. So this gives me a little warm up for a bigger one maybe to come in the future. I'm calling the transportation IPER the one report to rule them all. For any Lord of the Rings fans, because we're having 2 reports that are coming out around the same, this year. One is a vehicle grid integration roadmap. The other is the charging analysis to meet our 2030 target of 5 million electric vehicles on the road. And what we'd like to do is use distill some of the key findings from those other reports into the IPER, so that the IPER becomes a place where you could have a comprehensive view of transportation. Also taking a look at the three revolutions, automation, electrification, mobility as a service, and how they can interplay. And linking that to the demand forecast, we'd like to do an analysis of what does it mean if we do EV charging right? What does it mean if we do EV charging wrong in meeting our goals? So really excited to embark on this. Staff is busily planning a lot of IPER workshops, and it's great to have Heather and her team working on that. So just really excited to embark on this process.
Yeah. Commissioner McAllister, do you want to have anything?
Sure. I guess really dovetails nicely with the forecast work. In the even years, we don't do the full forecast, as everybody knows, and it's sort of a time we're trying to open up some space in that intervening year to think about long-term methodologies and strategize, really sort of optimize the process for getting localization of the analysis and figuring out sort of what tools are going to serve us for the long term. And since transportation is so integral to that long-term thinking, I think it's really opportune that you're leading it, and it opens up a cross-commissioner discussion to sort through some of those issues. So I'm really excited to link arms on that.
Yeah. And the microgrid section was a late addition to the IPER, but it does, as we're seeing increasingly electrification of transportation, reliability is more paramount than ever, and we've done now microgrids on 38 different sites throughout the state. And so what the Vice Chair will be looking into best practices, lessons learned from that, and as we have had a lot of PSPS events last year, we want to get ahead of that. Any other comments you wanted to add?
No, I'm excited about this. I think you'll have a fun time leading the IPER. It's a great opportunity to listen to experts from all around the world really talk to us about some of these key cutting edge issues that the Commission is working on. I'm excited for the transportation focus as well. I think the electrification of transportation, especially at scale, and what does that look like and what does that mean for the grid? And to your point about if we do it right, it will be great, and if we do it wrong, it might not be so good. And really kind of looking into that and trying to get out ahead of it before we become Norway with 50% sales and heavy duty and medium duty electrified, I think will be fantastic. So I'm looking forward to it, and congratulations.
All right. Okay, is there a motion for item 3?
I move to approve item 3.
Second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner McAllister. All in favor say aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 4, revisions to the charter of the Disadvantaged Community Advisory Group.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Christy Chu, and I'm the current staff liaison to the Disadvantaged Communities Advisory Group. You've already been provided with the proposed resolution for this item. The proposed resolution would approve changes to the existing charter for the Disadvantaged Communities Advisory Group. The Disadvantaged Communities Advisory Group is an advisory body to the Energy Commission and the California Public Utilities Commission. It advises the commissions on the effects of clean energy and pollution reduction programs in disadvantaged communities pursuant to Senate Bill 350. The Energy Commission approved the initial charter for the advisory group on December 13th, 2017. The advisory group is comprised of 10 members of the public with expertise or experience with disadvantaged communities or were appointed jointly by the commissions in early February 2018. The first advisory group meeting was held on April 4th, 2018, and has been meeting regularly ever since. While implementing the initial charter since 2018, the advisory group members and agency staff that assist the advisory group have found that revisions to the initial charter should be made to improve the functionality and administrative efficiency of the advisory group, such as staggering the terms of the members for the purpose of maintaining continuity of the group. Currently, the charter states that members are appointed for 2-year terms, and all but 2 were appointed in March of 2018. Therefore, most terms will be ending very soon. To maintain continuity and institutional memory within the group, staff is recommending revising the charter to stagger the terms of the advisory group members. Other proposed revisions include clarification of the appointment process, the qualifications of members, the resignation and removal processes, the duties and responsibilities of members, and when per diem is allowed. Over a period of several months, agency staff reviewed the proposed changes of the charter with the advisory group members during their publicly noticed meetings, and with Commissioners Scott and Douglas, and with Commissioners Rexhoffen and Guzman-Aceves of the CPUC. The CPUC is scheduled to hear the same item tomorrow at their March 12th voting meeting. With that, Energy Commission staff recommend adoption of the revised charter for the Disadvantaged Communities Advisory Group.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? None. Vice Chair Scott?
Well, that was an excellent and succinct summary, Christy. Thank you very much. I will just add that I do think that this set of revisions that are proposed before us now, it's a set of sensible clarifications and some updates. And so there's no questions. I will move approval of item 4.
And I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, that motion passes unanimously. In addition, I just wanted to particularly recognize and thank Christy for her good work to date. We are going to be making a transition, and going forward, our public advisor, Nomi Gallardo, will be on point for the DACAG, for the Energy Commission, and I want to thank Nomi for stepping up to handle that. And Christy, thank you for all your work on this. All right, let's move on to item 5, reappointments of and term extensions for existing members of the DACAG.
So as discussed and approved in the previous item, the proposed resolution before you now would extend the terms of the following existing Disadvantaged Communities Advisory Group members by 1 year. Jana Gagnon, B.B. Seaton, Stan Greshner, Stephanie Chen, and Tyrone Roderick Williams. Therefore, the end of their first 2-year term would be March 31st, 2021. The resolution would also reappoint the following existing advisory group members to a new 2-year term: Adrian Martinez, Andreas Ramirez, Angela Islis, Roger Lynn, and Fred Bean. Their new 2-year terms would begin April 1st, 2020 and end March 31st, 2022. This diagram of terms will allow for continuity on the advisory group. Thank you for your consideration of this item, and I'm able to answer any questions you may have. In addition, there may be members of the advisory group on the phone now.
Yeah, let's go to Tyrone Roderick Williams, Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency.
This is Tyrone Roderick Williams, and I have the privilege of serving on the advisory board, and it has been a great learning experience, and I have grown in my understanding of the numerous issues that are facing the community across the state, and I am honored to serve and welcome the opportunity to continue to serve for 1 more year. I do, as has been acknowledged, I want to say thank you to Christy for an incredible job of supporting us. Sometimes it's like herding cats. She's a professional cat herder. And we really do appreciate her skills and her patience, as well as Galen keeping us on track and always in the bounds of what is legal and correct. So I look forward to serving for 1 more year on the board with your approval, and thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Well, thank you, Mr. Roderick Williams, and thank you for your service, and very much appreciate that. Is there anyone else in the room or on the phone wishing to comment on this? All right, Vice Chair Scott.
All righty. Well, I just wanted to take a minute to thank the advisory group for their time and their expertise, their enthusiasm, and the constructive feedback that they bring to us on all of these topics. As you all the energy-related topics on which we work, as you all know, the Commission is serious about ensuring that the benefits of the clean energy economy go to low-income and disadvantaged communities, and also that these communities are a part of meaningfully helping shape what that looks like. And so our advisory group, I think, has done a great job, again, with constructive feedback, excellent suggestions, looking through much of the work that our Commission does. And so I really want to just say thank you to them for that. I also want to thank the CPUC for being an excellent partner with us on this. It's been a ton of fun to work with Commissioner Rechtschaffen and Commissioner Guzman-Aceves and their teams on putting this together. And I just also want to echo the thanks so much to Christy for her laudable work. She keeps the ship running on time. As Tyrone mentioned, she's herding a bunch of cats, and she always does it with a smile and on time, and just gets all the logistics done. And sometimes when everything's going smoothly, you don't always notice. You definitely notice sometimes when they're not, and she just always keeps things running smoothly. So I want to say thank you so much to Christy for her work there.
And I'll just add one thing. I completely agree with all of Commissioner Scott's comments, and I want to thank Christy. She's done great work on this, and particularly on this item, the DACAG members themselves, working with Christy, were able to find a way of adjusting the terms of members on this body in a way that had a lot of
internal support and consensus, and that's not necessarily easy to do either. So it's just another demonstration of how well this group is functioning. So, so I support this item.
Would you support it enough to make a motion?
I do.
Okay.
I will move approval of this item.
I will second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 6. Proposed resolution approving eco loans to the City of Campbell, City of Ontario, and the City of Amador.
This again. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Nelson Pena of the Local Assistance and Finance Office in the Efficiency Division. Today, I am here to request your approval for 3 proposed resolutions for Energy Conservation Assistance Act loan, also known as ECA loans. Number 1, we are requesting approximately $1.6 million to the City of Campbell. The measures will be installed in various existing city facilities and will include HVAC testing and sealing existing ducts, upgrading 1,788 streetlights with LEDs, and upgrading the city's energy management system with new hardware and software. The proposed project is estimated to save approximately 0.4 gigawatt hours and $112,000 annually. Number 2, we are also requesting $2.9 million for the City of Ontario for upgrades to both the interior and exterior lighting at various city facilities. The proposed project is estimated to save approximately 2.5 gigawatt hours and $335,000 annually. And finally, we are requesting $3 million to the County of Amador. The measures are installed at various existing county facilities and will include replacing 34 HVAC units, replacing 2 transformers, installing 4 separate photovoltaic systems totaling 740 kilowatts DC. The proposed project is estimated to save approximately 1.2 gigawatts hours and $180,000 annually. We request your approval of the 3 proposed loans, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on this item? If not, let's go to Commissioner discussion. Commissioner McAllister.
Yeah, so thanks very much, Nelson.
Thank you.
I love these diverse, like sort of multi-measure energy efficiency projects because they're just so needed, and the local governments, the jurisdictions, can look to us for the support. 1% loan, it's not a grant, it's a loan. They pay it back. They always pay it back. And I think if you look at these measures, the $7.5 million that is just going to an incredibly good use for our public sector partners. So
Yeah, I would just second that to the Vice Chair's comments about, when things go well, you don't notice. We have had this program going for 40 years, and we have not had, and we've done, I think we're approaching 1,000 projects through ECA, and we've not had a single default, which is a real tribute to the vetting process up front. And, I just wanted, Nelson, for you and your colleagues to take in that appreciation. That is a real sign of diligence, and really appreciate all the hard work you and your team do.
And these, the long, simple paybacks are actually a good thing. I mean, you think of, you want this really high rate of return, but actually for these infrastructure, for these capital-intensive kinds of upgrades, you want to go as far as you can and invest in all the energy efficiency you can. And so a long payback actually is kind of a good thing in that respect. It means they're really digging deep for the savings. So,
by the way, in the discussion with the governor's office this year about the climate budget and this concept of the Catalyst Fund, which is a revolving loan fund, the ECA program was the sort of model for that. And so the governor's proposed, $1 billion fund over the next 5 years, $250 million to start with. We'll see where that ends up in the legislative process, but this was in those discussions talked about a lot. So.
Yeah, and the funds keep getting paid back, and they hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars just out there circulating in the right places. So it's really quite a tremendous story.
Okay.
So
Other
anyway,
comments?
okay. So did you want to say anything? Thanks a lot, Nelson.
Excuse me, I thought you were going to ask me another question, maybe.
Singing your praises, that's all, and the ECA
Thank you.
team. So
I appreciate it.
Would you like to
should
sing your
soak-
praises yourself? You're welcome.
I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you should definitely soak it up because it's very well deserved. So
thank you
thanks,
for
thanks
all
a
your
lot.
work.
So, so I will move on to 6.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second by Commissioner Douglas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 7, Zero Net Energy Alliance.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Rachel Salazar, and I work in the Energy Research and Development Division. I am here today seeking approval of a $5 million grant agreement with the Zero Net Energy Alliance to build an advanced energy community in the city of Richmond. All right. All right, there we go. The Energy Commission issued a solicitation in 2016 called the EPIC Challenge, Accelerating the Deployment of Advanced Energy Communities. This two-phased competition challenged multidisciplinary project teams in partnership with local governments to develop innovative and replicable approaches that accelerates deployment of advanced energy communities throughout California. Phase 1 of the competition focused on the planning and design, while Phase 2 funds the build-out and demonstration. Out of 13 projects awarded in Phase 1, 4 projects were selected to build out under Phase 2, including 2 projects located in disadvantaged communities, and I will be presenting on the Richmond project today. Under Phase 1, the project team worked with the City of Richmond and community partners to design and adopt a comprehensive and integrated policy and financing framework that overcomes the common issues that many disadvantaged and low-income communities face when looking to deploy clean energy projects. The plans aimed to help the city advance its climate action plan and decarbonization goals, as well as to address issues surrounding the hundreds of abandoned and blighted properties left remaining after the 2008 recession. A community program based on Olivine's DER community model was developed and shows how community-based DER aggregations can increase the value of individual advanced energy technologies while providing numerous benefits to the community itself. It was specifically designed to enhance local energy resiliency, lower customer energy costs, and provide flexible load management and grid balancing services. For the Zero Net Energy Homes program, the team designed approaches to technically and economically allow for zero net energy features to be incorporated into the city's existing housing renovation program, which turns blighted properties into affordable housing. The city's existing program uses special funding from a social impact bond to acquire and rehabilitate these properties. And as part of the design phase, the project team worked with the city to develop forward-thinking policies to enable more green building practices and projects to be developed. And this slide provides a nice before and after for one of the properties that was redeveloped under the city's program. The Richmond Community Foundation manages this program and helps qualified first-time home buyers purchase the homes once they are complete. As you can see on the left, this property was an abandoned lot, causing an eyesore and potential hazards for the surrounding residents, as well as increased costs for the city to keep up with maintenance and cleanup. The photo on the right shows the proud new homeowners, a school teacher who is a native of Richmond and her fiance. Under Phase 2, the team will work collaboratively with the city as well as local community organizations to implement and expand upon the programs designed in Phase 1. For the Zero Net Carbon Ready, or ZNCR, Homes program, the team will demonstrate the feasibility of incorporating advanced, all-electric technology packages into 20 retrofit or newly constructed homes that are being rehabilitated through the city's existing program. Additionally, the team will deploy the DER Community program, expanding participation to include more commercial and industrial facilities and residents. These resources will be optimally managed by Olivine to achieve the cost savings and energy resiliency that were planned. Additionally, new revenue streams from participation in the wholesale market and utility programs will be used for participant incentives and equipment purchases. This will enable the program to continue to increase aggregation and become self-sustaining. And here's a closer look at the design elements for the DER community. Some of the features include an online community store offering incentives such as the grid-enabled devices, a mobile app allowing for automated program enrollment, energy monitoring, and behavioral demand management notifications, as well as a DER management platform to help optimize the aggregated assets. Participation includes commercial and industrial facilities, small to medium-sized businesses, municipal buildings, and residential properties, including all of the ZNCR homes. Technologies will include heat pump, water heaters and space conditioning, grid-integrated electric vehicle charging stations, building management controls, solar PV, and energy storage. And some of the additional benefits include improved air quality and green jobs. Other work includes performing measurement and verification, as well as developing a marketing plan for recruiting and educating customer participants, and a case study that will be shared with other local governments interested in adopting advanced energy communities in their areas. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any public comments on this item?
Richard from the ZNE Alliance is here.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you so excuse me. Thank you so much, Rachel, and hello, commissioners, and want to express my thanks in person for the continued support on this project and through the planning and the implementation phases. We also have a companion project in Lancaster that does somewhat similar things, but I wanted to actually focus my remarks on the scale-up phase of this project, which actually is underway. And I know it was one of the main goals of the AEC program that, in fact, these programs scale, beyond the grant periods and beyond the localities in which they're originally focused. And we've just had some really great success with that, even in the last couple months, that are consequential and involve CCA engagement specifically. So as you know, Richmond is served by MCE, which serves 4 counties throughout the Bay Area now. And they had just recently issued a solicitation to deploy 15 megawatt hours of customer-sited energy storage. We were fortunate to win that solicitation with several other partners and really to apply many of the AEC learnings to that broader area. So that includes deployment of storage, and also we hope a electric bus grid integration project whereby electric school buses in the region will be deployed as mobile storage assets during grid outages. And this is a pet project that we've been working on for some time. Our California e-bus to grid integration project, also funded by the Commission in Lancaster, Antelope Valley, will be applying the learnings from that project to this effort. Also, Cal Choice, which is the CCA in LA County, actually and beyond LA County now, 10 cities, almost 1 million population. They're also looking at these same kind of resilience and DER aggregation solutions. We're in the early planning stages with them on a scaled project. And then finally, on the ZNCR homes, we were advised by the Commission to continue to focus in Richmond, but we had some developers in Oakland that are using this ZNCR wrapper, as we call it, package for both rehabilitated and new homes. And so there's a variety of sites in Oakland that are proceeding based on some of the technologies and tools that our partners, including Energy Solutions, helped develop during the Phase 1 project. So, and then last but not least, in terms of leveraging local resources, you may be aware of the $100 billion so-called mega measure, the Faster Bay Area Coalition is putting forward, hopefully on the ballot in November. Senator Bell is carrying the enabling legislation. and we are working with other climate advocates and experts to try and build in a VGI and an electrification emphasis, and frankly, a GHG reduction emphasis throughout that program. And again, we're bringing forward some of the learnings from our e-bus to grid integration project and making advocating for those solutions. So I just wanted to inform the commission that the intent of piloting and demonstrating and early commercialization, of course, is to provide scale up, and we're so pleased that CCAs and other local public agencies are really starting to put some serious dollars behind these very same solutions. So much appreciate the support.
Great, thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to comment on this item? Vice Chair Scott?
Yep. Well, I don't have too much to add to what you heard from Rachel and Richard on this. These are really exciting projects to me. I don't know if you guys remember maybe 4 or 5 years ago when we first came with the Advanced Energy Communities, the EPIC Challenge. I said, that's so exciting. I want to do that in the transportation team. And we put together a charging challenge that's sort of modeled on the same idea, right? Where you take the first phase and you plan, what is this advanced energy community really going to look like? Then you get a chance to come back and compete at the Energy Commission for dollars to implement your plan for your advanced energy community. So I'm just really excited to see this next phase and have this project going forward. It's exciting to be able to deploy some of these clean energy projects and watch the communities become advanced energy communities. So the other thing that I think is really interesting and exciting about this project, Richard mentioned it and so did Rachel, is the ability to potentially scale up and to be replicable because of the way that it's designed and the way that we're working so closely with the city of Richmond. And I think it's interesting, I'm not sure which way you would say it. Maybe we say the EPIC funds are leveraging the city bond and the city bond is leveraging the EPIC funds, but it's a great way for local government, state government to really be working together to lead the way in this space. And then what's exciting about it, as you heard Richard say, is there's other communities that are already interested in picking this up and seeing how it goes. So I want to thank them both. I'm excited about the project. I'm ready for it to be done already, but I'm very excited about the project and highly recommend it to you all.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I think this is kind of the poster child of what the program ought to be doing, because it really, for a long time, our investments were just in the next whiz-bang device, and we're still doing a lot of that on next generation air conditioners and high efficiency windows and so on, but this is really about tying it all together and doing it in a disadvantaged community. And I think that really exemplifies the spirit and the heart and soul of the EPIC program, and I just wanted to point that out. Are there any other comments? If not, did you want to make a motion?
All right, I will move approval of item 7.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Douglas. All in favor say aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on to item 8, Food Production Investment Program.
Hi, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. My name is Cyrus Gandhi. I'm with the Energy Research and Development Division. Staff is seeking approval for 8 out of 16 recommended projects from the latest Food Production Investment Program's competitive grant solicitation for a total amount of $19.4 million. The remaining 8 projects will be recommended at a later business meeting. The purpose of the Food Production Investment Program is to fund drop-in and emerging energy efficiency technologies, renewable energy and fuel switching technologies to reduce energy use and greenhouse gas emissions at food processing facilities in California. Previously, we have administered 2 funding opportunities and awarded a combined $31 million across 17 projects. In addition, we issued a 4th and final round of funding with $25 million in available funds, with applications that were due on February 28, 2020. And resulting projects will be recommended at a later business meeting later this year. Funding for the Food Production Investment Program is provided through California Climate Investments, a statewide initiative that puts billions of cap-and-trade dollars to work, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, strengthening the economy, and improving public health and the environment, particularly in disadvantaged communities. Staff is recommending approval of the following 8 projects. The first project is with Amy's Kitchen, an industrial frozen food processing facility in Santa Rosa. The existing conventional refrigeration system uses high global warming refrigerants with up to 4,000 times the potency of carbon dioxide. This project will replace the existing refrigeration systems with high efficiency transcritical carbon dioxide refrigeration systems. The second project is with Hilmar Cheese Company, a cheese processing facility in Hilmar. This project will implement energy efficiency upgrades to the existing steam, refrigeration, and compressed air systems to optimize the performance of mechanical systems used in its cheese and specialty protein powder production process. The third and fourth project is with Pacific Coast Producers at its tomato processing plant in Woodland. The first project with Pacific Coast Producers will replace the existing inefficient hot breaks, which are used for preserving tomatoes, with highly efficiency hot breaks that will use waste steam that will otherwise be wasted, to significantly reduce the facility's steam needs. The second project with Pacific Coast Producers will replace an existing conventional aging natural gas boiler with a high efficiency, high pressure boiler to reduce natural gas consumption. The fifth project is with Sunmade Growers of California, a raisin production facility in Kingsburg. This project will replace the existing natural gas fuel dryers with a state-of-the-art, fully electric raisin dryer system. This project is an early example of how fossil fuels may be significantly reduced, may significantly reduce or eliminate the use of fossil fuels at food processing facilities in California. The sixth project is with OW Packers, a meat processing facility in Brawley. This project will install and operate an energy efficiency compressed air, refrigeration, and hot water system. These efficiency measures will result in reduced natural gas and electricity use. The seventh project is with Sunsweet Growers, a dried fruit and beverage making facility in Yuba City. This project will install high efficiency air compressors, boilers, and boiler equipment to reduce natural gas and electricity consumption on site. And finally, the last project is with Bimbo Bakeries USA at its 4 industrial bakeries, 1 in Northern California in Sacramento, and 3 in Southern California sites in Placentia, Montebello, and Escondido. These projects will install a waste heat recovery system, a highly efficient motors, and replacement boilers. These efficiency measures will result in reduced natural gas and electricity consumption at these industrial bakeries. Staff is recommending approval of these 8 projects, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. I also understand there are representatives from these companies present in the room, and they would like to say a few words. And a statement was also sent in from Bimbo Bakeries, and they would like us to read that.
Thank you. We have 6 public comments on this item. So let's start with Paul Schaefer from Amy's Kitchen, Senior Director of Sustainability.
Hello, good morning, commissioners, and thank you for having me. Amy's Kitchen is a family-owned business in Petaluma, California. We've been in business since 1987, making organic and vegetarian frozen meals and more recently canned soups. I've always been very proud to call California home. Though we've always started with the sort of inherent sustainability of organic and vegetarian ingredients, recently we've really come to the conclusion that as a business we have to do a whole lot more to help solve these challenges of climate change. And as such, we've put forward a pretty bold planet strategy. As we looked at our overall assessment of our impact, we looked at the full Scope 3 nature of it, but we really found that our California facility was our worst offender, especially given the amount of production going out of it. And a lot of that had to just do with the age of the refrigeration systems. It's just the general energy efficiency of the building. But being a family-owned company, we are somewhat capital constrained. It's been hard enough just to keep up with growth. So when we saw the price tag and the ROI of this project, we knew it was going to be nearly impossible, or probably was impossible, for us to finance and do it alone. So this FPIP program is a game changer. It's allowing us to really do a project that we love, that will really make us a better business, and ultimately will reduce the impact, the climate impact of our Santa Rosa plant by over a third, which is pretty profound. I mean, I wish we had more strategies that could cut a third off our footprint on other facilities, but this one we were lucky to find a strategy to do so. So we just couldn't do it without the FPIP program, and I just want to say how thankful and grateful we are as a company to the commission and the state for making this possible. Thank you.
Thank you, and keep up the good work. Next, let's go to Jeff Brock, Hilmar Cheese Company.
Hi, just wanted to thank the commission for this FPIP program and kind of what it's putting back into our community, specifically the food and beverage industry. With Hilmar Cheese, I know our ownership is appreciative of this, and just ask for your support, and it'd be great to see this program continue on as well. So thank you.
I have to say, all these public comments are making me hungry. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's move on to Josh O'Bannon, plant engineer at Sunmade.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Josh O'Bannon with Sunmade. First, I want to thank you on behalf of Sunmade. For those of you that don't know, Sunmade is a co-op owned by approximately 900 grower families in the Central Valley, formed in 1912, over 100 years ago. We have the privilege of being the largest raisin packer in the world, a position we don't take for granted. As the world leader in the raisin production, we strive to live up to the challenge and lead the industry in sustainability and innovation. I want to thank Kevin Yui for his guidance and leadership as our project manager. His role has been pivotal in our success of all of our projects, so thank you. I also want to thank DC Energy, Jack DiGiacomo and Thomas Cochran are here. Thank you very much for their leadership, their hard work putting together our previous compressed air replacement project, the project before you, and the microgrid project that's under your staff's review now. Also, John Larrea, the California League of Food Processors, always has our back, supporting us and fighting for us as well. So food processing is a low-margin business. Because of that, it results in using equipment beyond its service life, which also results in inefficient, unreliable equipment. So we began an energy master plan to identify major sources of inefficiency and greenhouse gas emissions. The compressed air project was identified as our most inefficient electrically supplied utility. This compressed air project was tossed around for a few years, but the project economics were unfeasible prior to the grant we received from the Energy Commission. FPIP moved the needle for us and allowed that project to proceed, which was completed this past August. This freed up CapEx to allow for additional energy efficiency projects to proceed. Upon completing most electrical energy efficiency upgrades, the focus was changed to reducing natural gas usage and the resultant greenhouse gas emissions. This raisin dryer was identified as responsible for over 80% of our facility's natural gas usage. And as you may already know, grapes are dried naturally by the sun before they arrive at our facility as raisins. This dryer, though, is used for moisture reduction and the reclaim of product that would otherwise be disposed of and sent to our distillery and turned into high-proof alcohol for use in the wine and brandy industry. That facility also employs a methane gas digester to capture methane and fire our boiler there. Electrifying the dryer will provide significant direct greenhouse gas reductions, meeting our goal of increasing the air quality for local residents. Without this FPIP award, electrification would be unachievable. Without this grant, our natural gas dryer would have been replaced with a new natural gas dryer, not achieving any greenhouse gas emission reductions. Following our master plan, we've submitted a microgrid project for the last FPIP round, which is under review now. We look forward to the possibility of working with the California Energy Commission to continue our goals of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and finishing our master plan, which will further exemplify the success of the FPIP. Thank you for the opportunity this morning, and Sunmade is very appreciative of your support.
Well, thank you, Mr. Van. Thanks for being here and for all your good work. And I would just say,
Thank
this
you.
is a new program for us. It always is a heavy lift in the early days of a new program to set the rules in place and to do the vetting. I've been really pleased with what I've seen so far, and along with Vice Chair Scott, look forward to visiting some of these facilities in person. Let's move on to Armin Nicoli from OWB.
Mr. Chairman and rest of the commission, thank you. In 2014, the former owner of this beef processing facility located in Brawley, California, shuttered the plant, and we began our journey to acquire this facility, which in Brawley at that time was suffering from the highest unemployment rate in the state of California at about 23%. And losing those 1,300 jobs, I think, significantly increased the pain of that situation for that area. We were able to actually make the acquisition in 2016, spent about 6 months refurbishing the plant, and got it up and running in November of that year, and have since brought back about 744 jobs to the area. My business partner is a third-generation cattle feeder from Brawley, and this has deep-seated meaning for him and his family to be able to provide these jobs. And funds like this have gone a long way to making that possible, so we cannot thank you enough for the support. As an example of our commitment to the environment, not only will these funds help us reduce greenhouse gases, but as an example, we acquired the 130 acres directly adjacent to the plant, went through the CEQA process, and were able to, through a long series of equipment upgrades in our wastewater plant, our on-site pretreatment facility, we have gotten the go-ahead from the Regional Water Quality Control Board to land irrigate those 130 acres to grow Bermuda grass, which has the highest agronomic uptake of any crop, and which also provides for the secondary beneficial use of what will be hundreds of millions of gallons of water a year. So we have a real commitment to the environment. We have a real commitment to the community and providing jobs. And just to reiterate, funds like these make that all possible, and cannot thank you enough.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to Stella Mentink, Sunsweet Growers.
Good morning. I'm Stella Mentink, and I'm honored to be here representing Sunsweet Growers. We are a California food processor in Yuba City, an agricultural co-op in business for over 100 years. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the executive team, we want to thank you for your investment. Together with our own funding, this will help advance reductions in greenhouse gas emissions at our Yuba City facility. We're grateful for the opportunity to partner with the California Energy Commission in this important project. And we'd like to take this opportunity to encourage future funding and continuation of the Food Protection Investment Program. We know that you have limited resources and are supporting a number of worthy programs, but this program has a significant impact on this critical California industry. It can make a substantial difference in ensuring the viability of the operation, continued employment opportunities, reliability of processing options for our farmers, and continued economic sustainability. Again, on behalf of Sunsweet, we thank you and appreciate your partnership.
Thank you. Then finally, we have Public Advisor Nomi Gallardo on behalf of Bimbo Bakeries.
Bimbo Bakeries, known as BBU, wants to issue an overwhelming thank you to the commissioners and the staff for this award and for funding such a critical program for California's food industry. Our company is best known through our brands that are in 83% of households across the United States: Sara Lee, Oro Wheat, Ballpark, Thomas's, Boboli, Nature's Harvest, and Entenmann's, just to name a few. We are the world's largest commercial baking company and operate 7 large bakeries spanning California from Sacramento to San Diego. This is the first time BBU has participated in a program like the FPIP grant. Your investment is allowing us to make significant impacts to the energy efficiency of our facilities and make real sustainable improvements come to fruition. Your approval today will not only decrease our GHG impact, but keep and add jobs to our facilities and other businesses within California. This award will directly improve the health and well-being of our employees and the priority populations often surrounding our bakeries. We thought the grant application would be a daunting process, but the staff of ERDD were extremely helpful in promptly answering questions and offering guidance and training through the grant process. We'd also like to point out your public outreach on this program was phenomenal. We had members of our maintenance teams as well as top management reaching out to us about pursuing the solicitation. Because of this award, BBU is looking forward to an ongoing partnership with the CEC to further both of our sustainability goals. As a large company operating across the country, we are often challenged by California's stringent regulatory facets. However, it's funding like the FPIP which drastically elevates our businesses, allowing thousands of employees to sustainably live and work in California.
Great, thank you. Before we move on to Vice Chair Scott, I just wanted to thank all the companies that are receiving these grants that are here today and really encourage you to invite legislators, your state senator, your assembly member to your projects to see this, because this is a program we love. We're really proud of it. Vice Chair Scott and the whole team have been doing a terrific job on it. This is only possible because of the support of the legislature, and it's something we love to continue. And very often the most effective and important stuff in this field of reducing emissions is very obscure, right? I mean, we're talking about industrial equipment that's not seen by the public, and so bringing a light to that, helping drive attention to it, and particularly with legislators, who would be interested to hear about it. Really want to encourage you to, as you think about ribbon cutting events and so forth, to include the legislature as much as you're able. Vice Chair Scott.
Well, so I'm not sure I can be any more eloquent than the presentation you had, or our excellent proposed awardees that came up and spoke to you about the program. I did want to highlight one thing that was maybe a little bit buried in what Cyrus said. A lot of this, because some of these projects with the refrigeration components, those are global warming pollutants that have really high, sometimes I'm not saying it right, that they have very high global warming potential, right? And so reducing those refrigerants down to from 1,000 down to 10 or 5 is a really big deal. And that's happening in addition to reducing water, reducing electricity, reducing natural gas. And so I just wanted to underscore that point for you all just a little bit. And I'm excited about this program because it is doing all of that. And it's also keeping an economic driver here in California thriving, right? It's giving them the ability to reduce greenhouse gases and also thrive and stay in California with important food production. I also want to highlight the excellent outreach that I think the team did. Before this, I don't know how often we worked with food producers, and maybe food producers had not heard of the Energy Commission, much less some of the grant potential, right? So the outreach that they've done going around to key symposiums, key convenings in the state to make sure that folks knew about this program and could apply. I really appreciate what Bimbo Bakery said about how the staff did a really good job in working with the team, and I had that in my remarks that I wanted to make as well. The customer service, I think, that the Energy Commission and especially the FPIP team provide is just phenomenal. I mean, they spent time listening to food producers to design the program in its most impactful way. They tried to do some appropriate calendaring, right? Because some of the food production, not all of it, is in seasonal, right? It's in cycles. So there are times when it's better to get a grant out there and have people apply. There are times when it's better for people to be changing out equipment. We tried to set it up with that, to set up the program with those calendaring kind of things in mind. I think that makes a big difference. And I think they did the best they could to make this easy for the food producers, while of course still meeting all of the things we need to do under the California climate investments. So I really appreciate that. I'm excited about this program. I'm excited about the projects that we're going to see and the reductions that are going to come along with those. And I think folks are the best messengers to other food producers about the program. So I would encourage you, as the chair did, to talk to folks about the program and that you think it works and that you think it's valuable and useful. I think we can say that, but I think hearing the message from others makes a big difference as well. So those are, and thank you so much for taking the time to come up to Sacramento and speak to us today. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add briefly that there's huge potential here, I think, and so I hope this is a partnership that can continue.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner
Yeah,
McAllister.
so yeah, just briefly, I mean, I remember early days with sort of trying to figure out how we could do programs like this, with Secretary Ross, and there was a big convening, and, the sort of skepticism that the state could pull something like this off was there because, these are new stakeholders. These are, we hadn't worked in this sector before, the Energy Commission or really the state much in this way. And so I think having gone through the process and built trust and done messaging and sort of built a brand around this, and I think we talk a lot about how the Energy Commission now I think has a very solid skill set in putting together and administering programs to push funds out into places where the economy can benefit, and that is a skill set. I mean, it's proper to see it as something that requires sort of buildable staff and skills and a lot of due diligence and process, and it requires some maturation, and I think we're there as an agency, and I think so. I actually see this program, certainly would love to see it expanded, but also broadened to address other parts of our productive economy. More broadly in the industrial sector, for example, look for opportunities to do that. A lot of greenhouse gas emissions out there to be harvested, to be sought and realized much more broadly than the little bit of resources we have now. So there's a lot of potential to grow this. And then I guess I have to take the opportunity because nobody said it, but I'm glad we're going to have even happier raisins in California, and maybe even happy prunes as long as there's no patent infringement. Hopefully, that can happen. But certainly hugely supportive of this, and I want to just thank Lori and Virginia and the team that put together and managed this program. So
yeah, I just
well
want
done.
to thank you, and good line. I want to say, yesterday Commissioner Monahan and I were doing a tour of all 17 electric vehicle manufacturer operations in California, and one of the sites we visited was Motive, which is doing electric fleets for delivery, and actually Bimbo Bakeries was one of their partners, so it's nice to see the intersection. So anyway, great work. Thank you for all your work on staff and industry. Thank you for being here. Is there a motion on item 9? Item 8, sorry.
8. I'll move approval of item 8.
Is there a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on to item 9, minutes. Is there a motion on the minutes?
Move the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Lead Commissioner reports. Commissioner Monahan.
Yeah, well, I want to start off by saying I've been confirmed. So, yay. I'm really happy that's over.
Elbow bumps all around.
Just a virtual high five. Yeah, I mean, it took a village really to get me confirmed. So that was really great to see how much support everybody provided within this Commissioner Rowe and the whole organization in that process. I also wanted to just comment really briefly. International Women's Day was amazing.
Yeah, let's give a round of applause for that. That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you to staff. Courtney and Gayleen, Alicia, Lindsay, and whoever else. Christine, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it was an amazing event, really inspirational. And I got to say, I loved how it was, a mix of men and women. And there was just something so wonderful to see how much support there was across the entire organization for recognizing that gender equality is an important issue. And how do we support each other in creating the organization that we want or fostering it? So, yeah, very inspirational. And the panel was really good, too, for those. Carla Peterman, former commissioner, came, and the panel was really amazing. So the whole event was spectacular. So we have a draft investment plan for the Clean Transportation Program that's published. We held the first advisory committee meeting, and the Fuels and Transportation Division did a great job together with the Public Advisor's Office. We had 35 advisory committee members, which is a very big committee. In fact, Commissioner Reckstoffen was on this tour yesterday, joked to me like, why wasn't I on that 35 person? Everybody else was. But what I loved about it was that we had, community participation. So community members were there talking about, well, what does it mean for their community to electrify transportation? So it was a personal experience, along with, hearing from the fuel providers, hearing just from the diversity of NGO interests that were represented. So it was really an interesting process, and I give kudos to the many folks that were involved in pulling that together. And now our challenge is, well, we're going to be reaching out to the DACAG to get their input separately. And, we want to bring it to you in late spring, early summer for approval. So we're moving along, and as you might recall, it's for the rest of the program. So it's a 3.5-year investment plan. We'll be doing annual revisions to that plan, but it really is kind of laying out a vision for what we're anticipating the investments should be for the duration, to provide more certainty to the community at large about the direction of the state and what they can count on in terms of Energy Commission support for clean transportation. So really looking forward to your feedback as we move down the line on that. And if you want to see the draft investment plan, it's there. So take a look at it. And as the chair said, and I'm sure he's going to talk more about this EV road trip, which was awesome. And maybe, I don't know with Bagley Keene what we're allowed to do. But I'm just saying, you all should come because it's really fun, really interesting, and fun also to do it in collaboration with other agencies. The chair's office did a really good job organizing this. So LaQuinn is a rock star organizer, and it's really fun. So encourage you to come.
Chair and Commissioners, apologies to interrupt. This is Noemi Gallardo, the public advisor. I actually did have a public comment to relate on item number 9.
Oh, yeah.
May I do that now?
Sorry, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So this is a comment from Steve Euler, U-H-L-E-R. Business meeting minutes have not been docketed. If you approve the minutes, please see that they are docketed pursuant to Title 20, Section 1208 prior to approval. Perhaps the Commission staff have overlooked the filing requirements pursuant to Title 20, Section 1208. Business meeting agendas have not been docketed. Business meeting resolutions have not been docketed prior to action being taken, and many have not been docketed at all. Please see that all documents distributed to the Commissioners for all proceedings are docketed. This includes any presentations given at proceedings. Doing so will reduce records requests. Votes on items taken at the business meeting February 20, 2020 appear to be treated as if they were placed on a consent agenda or calendar without stating such. Agenda items such as each resolution for 6A, 6B, 6C, 6D, 6E, 6F, 6G, 6H, and 6I, as listed below as separate items, may have been voted on as a group. Title 20, Section 1104D defines the use of consent calendars. What defines voting as a group for items not placed on a consent calendar? How does a member remove an item from the group when not on a consent calendar? Perhaps the approval of the minutes should be placed on a consent calendar. That is the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner McAllister?
Just a couple things. I wanted to just reiterate, we got the presentation from Tara, thanks for that, about the SB 100 workshop. I just wanted to point out, we had ARB, Rajinder for Chair Nichols, and then and Commissioner Randolph from the PUC also participating in that. And it was just a really, I think, good, robust discussion, and got a lot of stakeholder feedback, tremendous interest in this, and just a lot of thoughtfulness, I think. And that's both at the staff level across the agencies, but also out there in the stakeholders who really know how important this is. And I think we've done a good job of communicating that. So thanks for quarterbacking all of our effort, because there's a lot of moving parts there. So I appreciate that. And then the only other thing, so you all know that I'm on the board of the Alliance to Save Energy, representing the Commission in California. And that's an entity that's been around for 40 years or so, based in D.C., mostly with a federal focus on energy efficiency policy. More policy, less technical, so very kind of DC focused, and sort of bipartisan, and sometimes kind of painfully so, because bipartisanship has morphed in meaning over time. But there's a new initiative which I think is timely, and I wanted to just mention, which is called the Active Efficiency Collaborative. And basically, it's active efficiency really means the updated version of efficiency to include digitization and demand flexibility and all the things that we talk about. Electrification overlaps, dovetails very nicely with it as well. And so we have a lot of tools and a lot of interest across private industry, certainly the tech industry, service providers, aggregators, utilities, lots of different stakeholder groups for whom this is, I think, a nice conversation to help update the conversation about what it means to use energy optimally and cost effectively and cleanly. And so the kickoff of the Active Efficiency Collaborative happened a couple months ago, but we just had the first sort of steering committee meeting last week in Washington, and are going to be pushing forward with some conversations and prioritization of different topics that we might want to emphasize and get R&D and try to mobilize resources on more broadly. So I think we use terminology in California sometimes that's specific to California and not necessarily in common use more broadly. And so we say demand response or load flexibility or different terms, but this active efficiency, I think, has broad appeal in a way that can move the needle in a lot of different states. So the state energy offices actually are involved in it as well, and I think I'm optimistic that that'll be an initiative whose time has kind of come. So hopefully that will help us move the needle toward efficiency and optimization in all of its forms.
Vice Chair Scott?
Sure. So I have a few updates for you all about what I've been up to since I saw you last. I was just recently in Washington, D.C. for the Hydrogen and Fuel Cells Technology Advisory Committee, which is with DOE. It's always great to have a chance to go there and represent what California is doing, because we are on the cutting edge of a lot of the rollout of hydrogen technologies. It was also very interesting to listen to what DOE is thinking about, and they're really looking at hydrogen at scale and kind of across all sorts of industries. And so what we talked about a lot was, transportation of hydrogen in a liquid form, and then you have to dehydrogenate, I think I'm saying that right, to get the hydrogen out once you get it there. They were looking at some of the different technologies that can do that, some of the industries that might use that. What is it that we would need to do to scale up to have enough hydrogen if we were wanting to put it into pipelines and use in power plants? We heard some information from GE, which if you're building a brand new power plant, you can set it up so that it can use either natural gas or hydrogen. And if you do that in advance, then it's much easier to sort of change out the pieces that you need to change out than it is to go back and have to retrofit or rebuild. So some pretty interesting kind of, I thought, real forward-looking thoughts on what can we be doing in the hydrogen space. So I always appreciate the opportunity to meet with that advisory committee and also to share with them what California is up to. The EPIC program, as you know, has a ton of great projects, and so one of the things we're doing is going around the state to take a look at them. So we had our EPIC Innovation Tour, which I've updated you on a little bit. This last time we went to Santa Rosa Junior College and looked at the microgrid that they have there. That's been really interesting for them to think through where to put the different components of the microgrid, including the storage. Initially, they were like, oh, we're just going to set it right here in this parking lot. And then everybody's like, oh, you can't take 4 parking spaces. You have to find somewhere else to put it. And so trying to figure out where to put the components in a very busy, kind of already crowded college campus was quite interesting. But the folks there are very excited about that. We also visited Jackson Family Wines, and they have 2 technologies that they're testing out. One is a reverse osmosis technology, and so the wastewater that you get from cleaning out the wine barrels, and that used to go into a waste pond. Now it can kind of get run through this reverse osmosis machine, and they can use that water again. And they're kind of testing, they're still in the testing phase about how clean is that water. It's probably not drinkable clean, but it's definitely, you can use it in other processes around. And they are really appreciating that, because before that was just all water that was going to waste, and so that's saving them some money. That's saving them water and some money, but not a ton of electricity. It takes a lot of, I guess, electricity to run those reverse osmosis machines. However, they do have a heat exchanger for their white wine barrels. So basically what happens is if you don't produce white wine the right way, it gets crystals in it. So what you have to do is you cool it down and you take out the stuff that makes the crystals and then you warm it back up in order to put it in the bottles. And so they're using a heat exchanger to do that. And they love that because it's basically, maybe instantaneous isn't quite the right phrase, right? But it's not it takes hours and hours to cool down this. I mean, in these barrels, I think were 100,000 gallon barrels. I mean, the barrel's the wrong word. I mean, they were these huge steel industrial looking things. And so it would take, 8 or 10 hours to actually cool that down, and then another 8 or 10 hours or more to warm it back up. With the heat exchanger, it's almost instantaneous, and they love it, and they're trying to figure out how to get more of these heat exchangers in their processing. So that was really great to see. I, as you know, am leading up our Ports Collaborative. So we are working with the ports of Oakland, Stockton, Wainimi, LA, Long Beach, and San Diego. I always try to go in order because I love all the ports just the same. They're all wonderful. The Port of San Diego hosted us this time. It was great to meet with everyone in person again. One of the things that the ports really appreciate about the collaborative is they have had a chance to really exchange information with each other about some of the technologies and how they're working, some of their climate action plans and who's doing what and why they're doing it, how it's working, how did you work with this Port Tenants Association or that Ports Tenants Association. So they've really been able to exchange good information on things that are outside of what the Energy Commission is funding. We're helping fund some infrastructure, charging infrastructure, some cleaner vehicles, and also some like microgrids and things like that for resilience. So that was a fantastic meeting. We had already seen all of the equipment at the Port San Diego tenants, so we went to visit. They call it a FLUPSI. F-L-U-P-S, I think I-E or maybe Y. And basically, it's how you grow oysters. And they're getting ready to start growing oysters in San Diego, at the Port of San Diego. And so it was really neat to kind of go out and see that technology, to see that they have cleaned up the bay enough that you can grow oysters out there in that way. So we had a chance to see a different type of port technology.
Oysters also help clean up.
While we were there. Yeah, absolutely. So that was really interesting. Earlier that week, we had done the EPIC Resiliency Forum. Commissioner Douglas joined me at that down in Long Beach. This was an opportunity to kind of talk through some of the projects that the EPIC program has funded that are helping with resiliency. The public safety power shutoffs have put some of that into very fine, very stark relief, right? We didn't fund the technologies, with the vision of public safety power shutoffs coming down the road, but they really help people weather those. And so to hear from some of the communities who have been able to use the technologies in order to weather PSPS in addition to other resilience things was interesting. We had a chance to hear both from some rural communities and also from very populated communities. The rural communities are very interested in resilience. One, the first thing they're thinking about actually is energy access, much less resilience. Once you have that access, then you want to add in the resilience. But if you are up like in Humboldt County, we heard from Jana Gagnon, and she was talking about, so folks who are in a city center may get power restored in 3 or 4 or 5 days. Folks way out at the end of a power line in a very rural community, it might be weeks and weeks. And so the resilience really matters to them. They're very excited about that topic, or excited to be thinking about solutions to put in place on the topic. We were joined by Commissioner Rechtschaffen and Commissioner Sharoma from the CPUC. So they helped us to moderate some panels. So I want to thank them for that. I had a chance to visit the California Energy Storage Alliance, had a conference on storage. I think that was just last week, might have been 2 weeks ago now. I was on a panel on long duration storage. Commissioner McAllister, to your point that there's lots of different definitions. We decided to call, for the purposes of this panel, long duration storage was anything 6 hours plus. It was fantastic. There was a person from NYSERDA there, so we got to hear not just what California is doing, but what folks all around the country are doing in the long-term storage space. This is another area where we're out a little bit ahead of folks, but not that much, right? There's lots of other jurisdictions around the country and around the world that are headed towards these 100% clean energy standards, and so thinking through long-term storage and where do you put it, right? So how much do you need, and then where do you put it, was pretty interesting. And then last, sadly, the EPIC Symposium has been postponed, so I want to make sure that you all know that. We sent that announcement out yesterday. We just, we really want for everyone to be safe and for everyone to be healthy. We're hoping to have, 700, 800, maybe even 1,000 people at this event. We were seeing a little bit of chilling on the registrations because I think people are worried about, I know people are worried about the coronavirus and being together in big mass gatherings. So we thought, let's postpone this. We'll do this maybe in June, maybe in September or October, but I'll keep you all posted when we get the date back on. But just wanted folks to know that that has been postponed for the time being, with an eye out to making sure everyone stays as safe and healthy as they can. Those are my updates.
Thank you. I have one question for you, Vice Chair Scott. Just on the ports, so can you give us an idea of some of the most successful measures that ports are doing now to reduce emissions, and who's sort of gone the furthest? I'm curious of the ports you're working with.
Yeah, well, so there's a lot that the ports are working on. One of the things that's been most impactful, I think, about the partnership is it has given the ports the ability to test out the electrification of a lot of this equipment in advance of what we see, maybe the broader we, not me, we, but is Air Resources Board regulations that are going to come that are going to really push that trend farther, faster, right? So understanding how the technologies work, how do we plug them in? I think you've all been to a port before. They're incredibly busy. And so it's tough to figure out where to put the infrastructure, right? Because they're like, you have to put a bunch of bollards and all kinds of stuff around there. Like, as soon as we put something here, someone is going to run it over. And they don't want that to happen with these expensive chargers, right? So really thinking through where you put things, how do you talk to folks about it? And they've been really good at helping us. I kind of call it kicking the tires on the technologies, really sort of testing out the technologies. So there was one where when you would put the truck in reverse, it would just sort of drift, maybe drift is the wrong word, but it just would roll backwards because that's how the internal combustion engine works. Well, when you do that with a electric engine, it's trying to recharge, right? That recharge comes in, and so now it's not rolling backwards the way that they were used to having it roll backwards. Right. So it's kind of these actually using it, and how does it compare with what you were using? It still works, it still does what it's supposed to, but it feels different. And we used to just let them roll backwards, but now you have to actually, put your foot on the accelerator to get it to move backwards. And they had one where the placement of one of the pieces of technology was not, it was blocking the view of folks that were having to look backwards all of the time. And so, whoops, we need, so you don't want to make, hundreds of thousands of those like that. You want to have your first few, see how it works, and then, make those tweaks as you go along. So they've really been helping us kind of kick the tires, test out the technologies in that way. And then I think the microgrids, they're excited about that because obviously they want to be able to, the ports are, I don't have to tell you all, huge economic engines for the state of California. They want to be able to keep up and running no matter what's going on. So that's why they're really interested in microgrids. They're also looking at the capacity of electricity that they have coming into the port, right? Because if you electrify just like 6 big trucks, that's a lot of electricity. I mean, that's megawatts of electricity, right? If we do all of the port equipment, that's a lot of electricity that's going to be coming to the port. It might be above the capacity of the lines that they have right now or their distribution systems that they have right now. And so what does this look like at scale for the ports is something that we're getting ready to turn to. But they've just been great partners in testing out. The Port of San Diego, the Tenants Association, we weren't able to fund equipment for literally every port tenant, but what they did was they let everybody borrow it and try it and drive it and see what they thought about it. So then you can kind of get lessons learned back from a whole bunch of different users, even though, we were only able to do trucks for a certain number of users. And so I think it's been a lot of lessons learned in that way, kind of what is the technology? How does it work? Do we like it? And I think they do for the most part, but there's those kind of random things, like I said, where, you take your foot off the accelerator, it used to just roll backwards. Now you actually have to make it, the truck go in reverse, or put a computer program in that tells it not to do the regenerative braking, right? So kind of working out those kind of kinks.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Well, I just have one thing to add, which is that yesterday, first of all, the Epic Forum was fantastic. And so I really got a lot out of participating. But so yesterday, in partnership with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, we held a task force meeting. It was a webinar task force meeting, so we had about 11 people in the room, mostly Energy Commission, but one representative from BOEM and a couple from other state agencies. We had over 300 people online participating, and through Webex or through remote participation, and we had a really good discussion and dialogue, and so it worked out very well. So I think that's all I've got today.
Great, thank you. Well, let's see. I guess one thing I just wanted to say, I feel there's a lot of very significant challenges right now going on many levels, but I feel within the Energy Commission, we're doing great. And I just wanted to say I feel so proud of all of us as a group, our ability to work well together, and just I feel like we're really humming along. And at the senior staff level, I mean, I just want to say again how grateful I am to have Noemi as public advisor, and Darcy as chief counsel, and LaQuinn as my chief of staff, and Lindsay in her role, Drew and his, and really across the commission, I feel, and Lisa's over there as well, just we have an A-team. And I just want to note that because it's just especially valuable in rough weather to have, I just feel the drama level within the commission. There's always some drama, but it's relatively low, and it's we just actually are kind of overflowing with competence at the leadership level across the commission. I'm just very grateful for that, and I just am especially grateful in tough times. But it is tough times. I just want to share a few observations. I mean, Monday the stock market had the steepest decline points value in history. Okay, it's plunging again today. I think the likelihood we're headed into a recession is high, and this is going to impact all of our work. It's going to impact the state, but also the things that we're doing here in many ways represent the future of the economy. And so it's actually more important than ever that we continue to push away, because we will get through this thing. I mean, my view is where we're at right now, it is going to get worse before it gets better, but it will get better, and we'll make it through this as every other, public health from SARS to Ebola, even looking back at the history of malaria and how that was eradicated actually eradicated in the United States through a robust public health program. And I think it also highlights for me, one thing I've been thinking about is just, if anything needs to be quarantined, it's this political, philosophy that we shouldn't be all taking care of ourselves. I mean, nobody is safe until everybody's safe. That's the whole thing with the pandemic. And it really does reinforce the principle that you want to be having robust public health protections, and just more generally, like, we have to take care of everyone among us, including the least among us, especially in these times. And so that's been on my mind a lot. I will say this tour that we're doing to the 17 ZEV manufacturing sites, which we kicked off yesterday, was terrific. So Commissioner Rexhoff and Commissioner Monahan and I did all three sites. We went to Cummins and to Motive and to Tesla, and then we had a much larger group, including President Batcher and others, join us at Tesla. I invited General Conley from the Marine Corps and Admiral Bolivar, from the Commander of Navy Region Southwest, who joined us along with some others for the Tesla portion. But Vice Chair Scott, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you were on point on transportation when Motive got funded. And just to share that little snippet, so they made very clear in the meeting they would not exist as a company were it not for the Energy Commission support. They have 83 employees. They're growing. We got not only to test ride, but Commissioner Monahan test drove one of these massive, trucks, like a big electric semi truck around the block.
It was a dream come
true. It was, yeah. I wasn't sure we were going to get her back. She, but this is, this is what our programs are supposed to do. And they took that money. There were some challenges. They got through it. They used that to leverage private investment. They're growing. They had a very impressive team around the table. They're working with all these companies on piloting, and this is the transportation and delivery vehicles of the future, and it was just so great to see that up front. Tesla itself is now, so folks have been following that story, but Tesla as a company is more valuable than the entire rest of the U.S. auto industry combined. It's about 5 times the value of Ford, and they're making 1,000 electric vehicles a day off the Fremont line. I have been to Tesla 8 times. Starting when I was back in the solar industry, my office was across the street when it was the NUMMI plant, and that was a GM and Toyota joint venture. I remember that tour. They took me around, and they were saying, oh yeah, when we find a problem, this is the guy from GM saying, when we find a problem, we fix it right away, because otherwise, if you let it go, then you have a Ford. That was his his line. But there are more than twice as many people on site at the Tesla factory today than were there when it was a GM Toyota plant. And I think the great victory of Tesla, and I've told them this directly, is actually not just the Tesla vehicles, but the pressure that they have applied to the entire global auto industry to go electric. And now everyone is doing that. So GM had a big announcement, in Detroit this week, invited all their dealers in. Their future is electric. Audi, we actually did this tour in an Audi e-tron, which we used for the day, which is the first all-electric SUV, 220-mile range. And Audi's coming out with another 20 models of electric vehicles in the next 4 years. These manufacturers around the world, it is because of the California policy environment, which made Tesla possible. I don't think you would have that without all the policies that we put in place, but it's bearing a lot of fruit, and tremendous progress there, and a great discussion with them about the challenges ahead. So we'll be doing the rest of that tour in the next month or two as we get it calendared, going down to see Zero Motorcycles and BYD and Proterra and the rest. So I want to just...
and if you come to the tour, maybe you guys too will get to ride in one of these vehicles.
Yeah,
like,
you could even
I mean,
drive
come
it. I
on.
know.
On an electric motorcycle?
It's true. Who's in? Who's in?
They'll let you ride the electric motorcycle. We missed it when we went to visit because it was raining that day.
All right. I just also wanted to especially thank Jennifer Martin Gallardo, who has been doing a spectacular job as our ombudsman for the grant recipients. I continue to get fantastic feedback from stakeholders about that, and also from staff internally. And this is kind of like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. Like, once you do it, then you start over and do it. And like our process, we're really in a place where we just want to constantly improve and make it as friction-free as it can possibly be. And we are here as an agency to serve our grant recipients, and we really want to be as proactive as possible. And she's just really built for that job, and I've told her how grateful I am, and we again got great feedback about her and that function she's providing on these site visits. And then finally, we had a really good forum with Velos last week, about 250 people here in Sacramento. Great dialogue with all the stakeholders. These forums are getting harder and harder to do right now. I've had just from my own calendar, I think at this point 6 or 7 conferences get canceled, including one offshore wind visit, and it's going to go to the Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue in Germany with about 50 other countries. That's been canceled. So I think we can expect more of that upcoming. That was go ahead.
Yeah, so I great segue here. I wanted to just bring up. So I had a we all do conference calls all the time, and video conferencing is something that I think we do with mixed results. I don't know if your experience reflects or is similar to mine, but I yesterday had a call with some Japanese executives and policy folks who were in Japan and late in their evening. And they were going to come here. They canceled their trip. Obviously, they're having lots of coronavirus issues. But it actually was happily really seamless and really great. And I guess, maybe if it's still a little bit early to be finding silver linings here, but, maybe one thing we could double down on, and I'm, love to work with the executive office on this and whoever else in IT, but to sort of up our game a little bit in terms of enabling distance meetings. There's nothing like personal interaction and being with somebody when you're getting to know them, establishing relationships. But then maintenance of those relationships becomes a lot easier to do remotely. But it really helps to have particularly groups and stuff, and screens and sort of be able to read body language and things like that to some extent. So maybe this is a way that we can a moment that we can sort of double our resolve to enable that tool to be much sort of lower transaction cost and more seamless. I think that it kind of seems like it's time for that anyway, but maybe this is our excuse.
That's great. But Drew, did you want to comment on that or anything to respond on that?
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. We didn't talk about that before the meeting.
we have had a talk with Rob Cook about that last week.
Yeah, we're looking at all options, and certainly that's a really good idea for if we're thinking about canceling something, and an option is to do it remotely. It's obviously a really good option.
Great. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to Executive Director's report.
Commissioners, I have a handful of items, but they're all really quick. First, thank you, Commissioner Monahan, for bringing up International Women's Day. This was one of those many hands make light work sort of events, but really Gayleen and Courtney spearheaded it, and as you all know, having done events yourselves, that if it isn't somebody who really focuses on it, it doesn't get done. I think they just did a terrific job. I left with an enormous sense of pride and optimism for my daughter, who's 12 years old, as I watched you guys. FPIP, just wanted to make a comment about today's item and one piece of it. I think the secret sauce here was listening. I attended a meeting very early on that was hosted by the governor's office, and there was deep skepticism by not necessarily the folks that were in the audience today, but certainly that industry. And I really want to thank Lori and her team, including Cyrus, for listening and just hearing what the challenges were. There was no shortage of money prior to FPIP to do the sorts of things that got done, but we really listened to figure out how to tool the program in such a way that it was able to be utilized effectively. Survey results. We did an all-staff survey. We got 380 responses, which is very good. And I'm really optimistic about the results. A lot of good things, tremendous pride in people in this organization for the work we do. Also some challenges. And so we're doing an off-site with my leadership team, and Darcy has graciously agreed to join us this Friday. We're going to take off a chunk of the day and talk about what some of those concerns were and how we can best address them. I'll be messaging that today. Two other things. Coronavirus, just wanted to say we'll continue to monitor it. I get a lot of information and try to be choosy about what to share with staff lest we overwhelm folks. I sent out an all-staff yesterday, and it was a compilation of a number of different pieces that the idea was to try to pull the most relevant ones for folks and send those around. My inbox in my anonymous suggestion box I wouldn't say it's getting flooded, but I'm getting quite a number of comments from folks who are concerned. An email you didn't see was one that went just to managers and supervisors, and what it is asking folks to do is assess our ability to telework. There are two challenges with teleworking. One, there are people who do work in this building whose work isn't really suitable for teleworking, so we want to kind of get a sense of who those folks are. And then second, there are folks for whom it is suitable but who have technological or other challenges at home, so we want to get ready ahead of time in the event we need to do more teleworking. So it's really just sort of a getting ready situation. And also I asked last night at about 10 o'clock that we add the COVID-19 link from the California Department of Public Health to our website. I'm pleased to say that our IT shop jumped on it. It's on the website now on our main page. So we're keeping an eye on that. And then finally, I got asked to join a meeting on sea level rise hosted by Secretary Crowfoot. And the team asked that we share with you the Making California's Coast Resilient to Sea Level Rise draft principles document. It's available. I'm happy to share it with you, but just wanted to let you know it does a number of things. One, it suggests we work together with folks and collaborate with sister agencies and with local governments. But the big one is, for us, I think, to use in our planning the 3.5 feet sea level rise by 2050 figure. It most impacts Commissioner Douglas in the siting division, I think, as we look to siting power plants and related facilities, but it may apply in other instances as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah,
Drew, are you going to send that around to us. I think it would be super helpful. I think, especially to me and Commissioner Douglas for the 5th climate assessment. We're working on that, and also in case there are things that we would like the research team to think about needing to look into. So if we could see those, that'd be fantastic.
I'll send it to the 5 of you now.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Madam Public Advisor.
For the record, Noemi Gallardo. Hello, Chair and Commissioners. I have 2 quick things. One on the speaking of the coronavirus, my office does talk to the public, and so I just wanted to emphasize that we'll work in coordination with Drew in case we do start hearing from the public any concerns. We haven't heard any thus far, though. And then second, I wanted to acknowledge the opportunity that you've provided me to serve the commission further by supporting the Disadvantaged Communities Advisory Group, also known as DACAG. I think that aligns really well with the other work that my office is doing to advance inclusion, diversity, equity, and access at the commission. I want to let you know we're looking forward to that, and also emphasize that we'll be advancing the incredible work done by Christy Chu. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Naomi. We're really, really proud of you. Public comment. Is there any public comment in the room, on the phone? Okay, let's move on to Chief Counsel's report.
No report.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.